What's poppin', YouTube? It's your girl Nario, and I'm back with another video. Y'all see the title. I don't have to say it, so make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe, and add me on all social medias. And without further ado, let's get into this video, right? Okay, so we're talking about a woman named Candy Montgomery. So Candy was born December 24th, 1952 in Wiley, Texas. She was known as a very independent child, you know, prima donna, you know, she was independent, and she carried that throughout her whole life, you know. After high school, she ended up moving out, you know, getting a job, moving out and everything. She only needed two more things, and that was a husband and a kid. She wanted to be a wife and a mother. So on her search for that husband, she dated, she had a couple of experiences. She ended up running into a man called Pat Montgomery. Okay, now Candy maiden name is Wheeler, so at this time she was known as Candy Wheeler. But she met Pat, and to her he was introverted and he wasn't that attractive to her, but she ended up giving him a chance, you know. They dated, and after a while, of course, Pat did propose, and she was like, you know what, one day he's gonna have money, right? Why not? This is the best I'm gonna get, right? Okay. And they married, you know, by 1979, I believe. 1979, they ended up having two kids, one boy and one girl. Pat, or Mr. Montgomery, ended up getting a good job and everything, had good income, you know. And then lastly, they moved into their dream home. So on the outside looking in, you think that Candy had the perfect life. It wasn't enough for her, though. She decided she wanted something more. And more meant an affair. She started looking for men to have an affair with, and she did end up finding that man. There was a volleyball game, or, you know, event happening at her church. It was a weekly thing. She ended up going, and there she noticed Alan Gore. Okay, now she already knew Alan. Their daughters played together, you know, and she was friends with the wife. She was friends with his wife and everything. So she flirted with him. They flirted back and forth for a few weeks, and after a while she was like, you know what, and she just went out and asked, she was like, do you want to have an affair? And of course it kind of like shocked Alan, but then he was like, sure. Now Alan is the husband to the victim, so let me tell y'all about that. So Alan and the victim got married, they had kids, but after their first kid, the victim fell into a depression, a postpartum depression, and then after she got better, but then after the second child, it kind of declined. It was like they was in a relationship, but there wasn't anything really. It's like she was distant. She wasn't there anymore. So yeah, that's that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they end up having an affair. Alan and Candy, they end up having an affair. This lasted for a couple of months, and in the beginning, you know, they already agreed, no I love yous, there's no strings attached, and nobody's leaving their spouses, you know. So, you know, they already had the ground rules. They did the affair for a little while, and, you know, Candy was happy with it, you know. And then at some point she was like, okay, she needs somebody new. So her and Alan did end things, you know, they ended things. And time rolls, you know, she looked for somebody else. Time rolls around, June 13th, 1980. Okay, it's a few days before Father's Day, and Candy has her daughter, and she has errands to run. You know, she's doing a church event, she has errands to run, so she decides to drop her daughter off at her friend's house, you know, as if her friend can watch her, you know, because their daughters were friends, you know. So yeah, she gets over there, and the victim, the friend, learns that they had an affair, and she confronts Candy about it. And Candy, at first, she denies it, and then she says it's been over for a while. She admits it, and this of course upsets the victim because the victim thinks that Kandi is lying. At this time, Alan was on a business trip, so he was out of state or whatever. So he was on a business trip, and I guess he wanted to make sure his kids and his wife was doing okay. So he called Kandi and he asked her to check on him, and she was like, oh, she was fine earlier when I went by, you know. And then he called the neighbors and he asked neighbors, and they said the same thing. Oh, she was fine. There was one neighbor that Alan was very insistent on checking on her. His name, I'm sorry. The neighbor, his name was Mr. Parker. He did go back. He did go to the house later on that evening to check on her because Alan was very insistent. He wanted to know, you know. He wanted to know. So he did go check on her with some other neighbors, and they found that the door was open, well, unlocked, you know. They heard the baby crying, and when they went to go check on the baby had a full diaper. She had a full diaper. She was dehydrated. You know, it's like, where's your mom at? Okay, so kind of alarmed, they carefully went through the rest of the house, and they saw a door that was partially open. It was like left ajar, and they saw the victim dead on the floor. And it said that you couldn't really recognize her. She was just like, you couldn't recognize her at all. So yeah, that happened. They called police. Y'all know how that goes. Let's get into the investigation. So police, they thought it was like a temporary thing, like, you know, somebody temporary did it. They thought somebody temporary did it, like a worker, maybe she had like a nanny or something. They thought somebody like that did it. Found out that it wasn't, because they kept coming to dead end with that. So it was determined that they would have to look more close to homes, like somewhere closer. At this time, they brought in the husband, Alan, for questioning, and his behavior, his demeanor kind of threw them off because he wasn't acting like someone who just lost their spouse to a murder. Like, he wasn't mad, he wasn't angry at all, he wasn't sad, and he wasn't demanding them to, you know, find who killed his wife. So that kind of set off alarms, you know. After interviewing Alan, they let him go and everything, and they started going to, you know, friends and family and everything like that. Eventually they got around to questioning Kandi. Okay, so Kandi, they questioned her. You know, she didn't say anything about the affair. You know, she said the last time she saw the victim, she was alive. You know, and they ended up letting Kandi go. Later on in that investigation, Alan called them, and he admitted to having an affair with Kandi. Now, at the scene, they found a slipper print, a rubber slipper print by the victim's body. And of course they found out about the affair, so they had quite a mind that Kandi was most likely guilty. So they brought her back in and they asked her why wasn't the affair mentioned. At this point, they already had evidence against her, so it is what it is. Let's get on trial time. Okay, trial time, right? Yeah. Okay, so Kandi ends up being put on trial for the victim's murder. Okay, she gets put on trial for the victim's murder. You know, and during her testimony, it was time for her to testify, you know. And she said that she went over there. The victim confronted her about the affair, told her she found out. She confronted her. She ended up finding one of the letters that Kandi had written, the husband, you know. And Kandi was like, first she denied it, and then she admitted to it, and she tried to tell the victim that it was over, you know, it didn't last that long, it was over, it's been over for a little while, and the victim didn't believe her. This just made the victim mad. So the victim grabbed an axe and ended up cutting Kandi's toe. And this made Kandi very upset. It infuriated her. So Kandi then proceeded to take the axe away from her, and she ended up hitting the victim over and over again until the victim was down, which told her in about 41, it was said 41 hits. And she said the victim did something very strange, like it was strange, because before the victim died, she just said, shh, and it died, you know. So that was it. And people in the audience, they thought the jury really wouldn't believe her, you know. She was jealous, she had an affair with the husband, you know. You got what I want, so I gotta get you out the way to get what I want, you know, type of thing. And she was that type of person. She did what she had to do to get what she wanted, you know. But yeah, so jury come back and they find Kandi not guilty because they said it was self-defense. This of course infuriated the people that was there, you know. So while Kandi and her husband is walking out the courtroom, you can imagine what happened. Everybody was yelling murder and all this stuff, you know. It's just, they was mad. They was mad. You can't blame them, can you? They was mad. You killed somebody and you're getting away with it. Oh, this was a big win for the defense attorney. His name was Don Crowder, I believe, right? Because she called him when they ended up calling her in for a second questioning before everything happened. And he was also a church member, so it was a big one for him. She got off because it was ruled self-defense, and you know, yeah. Later on, after all of this happened, her and Pat did get a divorce. Now she's like working in as a mental health therapist for depressed adults and teens in Georgia. I don't know where, just Georgia. So yeah. Mr. Gore Allen, he ended up remarrying. He remarried between the time of his wife's murder and Kandi's trial. And in 1999, the defense attorney, Mr. Crowder, did commit suicide. That makes you wonder, like, was she really innocent? Like, was the guilt just too hard to bear, so you killed yourself? Is that what happened? The dad did lose custody of the kids. The victim and the husband, he did lose custody. I don't know if he was in his kid's life still, but he did lose custody of them. I think the house where the murder took place is famous. I saw some. That's the end of this story. If you want to look into it, you know, look into it. You know, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys later. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share, and add me on all my social medias, which will be on the screen somewhere.